According to the Office of Court Administration's annual statistical report, there are just under 7 million fine-only criminal cases filed in Texas. Comparable to the amount of Texas residents, which equal just under 28 million, that equates to 25% of our state population who will receive a citation within the next year, making their appearance in a municipal court one of the only interactions they'll ever have with our judiciary. As a court services manager for the City of Irving, I've made a career out of ensuring fair and impartial treatment is given to anyone who receives a citation. Because these decisions are so impactful, it's important to fully understand what options are available and how each of these decisions can be consequential. Today's presentation will cover the jurisdiction of municipal courts, how and why cases are filed, options that are available, where the money for those citations go, and what happens when cases are not properly disposed. If you ever find yourself as the recipient of a citation, by having a better understanding of these few areas, I hope you'll have greater confidence in your local judiciary. To begin with, it's important to understand what jurisdiction municipal courts hold. As a statutory authority court, municipal courts have local jurisdiction for fine-only misdemeanors, also known as Class C criminal offenses. This means that the only penalty for receiving those citations is to pay a fine. There's a variety of different cases that can be filed at a municipal court. Most well-known are those filed by city police officers. This includes traffic offenses and penal code infractions. Examples of the traffic offenses are speeding, running a red light, driving without a license. Penal code offenses include things like theft, under $100, disorderly conduct, and language abuse. Less well known are cases filed by other entities, other departments such as animal control, code enforcement, and the health and safety departments. Secondly, we answer the question of how these cases get to a municipal court. Cases are filed in two different ways. They can be filed by a citation, which is a written promise to appear, and they can also be filed by a complaint. When cases are filed by a citation, the officer is known to have the person in custody, so the citation is a written promise for that person to appear before a judge, instead of taking him or her directly to see a magistrate at the time the infraction occurs. Anyone can file a sworn complaint. If your neighbor appears at the municipal court and alleges that you have unlawfully allowed your dog to be out without a leash, you may be summoned to answer those charges at the municipal court. From there, it's important to understand what options are available. There are so many options for disposition. Each of these can be specific to meet your needs. First and foremost, you can enter a plea of not guilty. If you feel like you shouldn't have received the citation and that the offense never occurred, by issuing a plea of not guilty, that begins your due process. You're then taken before a prosecutor. The prosecutor represents the state of Texas, and they make the decision as to whether or not they feel like they can prosecute your case. If they agree with your remnants of how the case happened and they choose not to prosecute the case, they can file a motion to dismiss with the judge. If the judge dismisses the case is closed and you're not responsible for the case going forward. Now, if they feel that they can prosecute the case, they may then choose to take your case to trial. You definitely have the option for trial. If you choose to have a bench trial, that means that you're leaving the authority to the judge to make the decision on your guilt or innocence. You also have the option to choose a jury trial. With a jury trial, we call in 6 members of the community. They hear the details of your case, and they ultimately decide whether you're guilty or innocent. Additionally, if you choose to have a jury trial, you can also opt for the jury to decide your penalty. Being that we're a Class C fine-only misdemeanor court, the jury would be choosing the amount of the fine that you would have to pay. Next, you have a plea of guilty. When you feel like you're responsible for the charge and you're taking responsibility and you don't want to contest any of those points, then you enter a plea of guilty. Now, understand that a plea of guilty can be held against someone if a civil suit is brought against them later on. This means, let's say that you're involved in a car accident later and someone is suing you. If they see that you pled guilty to a criminal traffic offense prior to your case with them, they can use that to hold against you later on. Now, a plea of no contest works the same way in that it has the same effect as a guilty plea. However, a plea of no contest cannot be held against you in a civil case later on in the future. It also is given whenever people feel like there are mitigating circumstances to why the offense occurred. They're not saying the offense didn't occur, but they're saying that due to these mitigating circumstances, that's why it did. A plea of guilty or no contest may result in options to keep the citation from appearing on your driving record and or criminal history. Many times, a judge will give you the option for deferred disposition. Basically, with this, the judge is saying that they're going to hold off entering a judgment against you if you can complete a court order. Sometimes that court order is not receiving any other citations within a specified amount of time and paying the fine. Sometimes, depending on the case itself, it may be a drug class, it could be an alcohol awareness class, it could even be teen court. Additionally, you have the option for a driver safety course. Once every 12 months, if you've gotten a traffic-related offense, you can opt to take a driver safety course in order to have your case dismissed. Non-monetary options are available too. Community service may be completed in lieu of paying the fine. If monetary means creates an undue hardship for you, you can express that to the judge and the judge can give you community service in lieu of that. Now we can answer the question of what happens to the money that defendants pay for these fine-only penalties. A common misconception with citations includes the idea that municipalities keep all this money. Realistically, the majority of this money is forwarded to the state of Texas in what we call court costs. The judge is responsible for setting the fine, but the court costs are pre-assessed by the state of Texas, and they retain all of those costs, which we forward to them on a quarterly basis. Many times, those who receive a ticket fail to do anything, and they fail to complete what they've agreed to. This leaves the case pending. So what happens to it? Just because you fail to answer to a citation, it doesn't mean that the citation disappears. Instead, the judge can issue a warrant for your arrest. Similarly, when you fail to complete what you've agreed to, also called the judge's orders, it may result in the issuance of a warrant for your arrest as well. Even after a warrant is issued, though, you still have options that are available. It's important to understand that before allowing your case to go to warrant, you should come talk to a judge about your specific situation so that a judge can assess it and help you decide how to dispose of a ticket. Ultimately, that's our goal, is to ensure that a case is disposed of. In bringing my presentation to a close, I've covered 5 main areas. Most importantly, anytime that you have contact with a municipal court, it's our responsibility to ensure your constitutional rights are upheld. More so, as a public servants, we have the additional obligation of ensuring your time with the local judiciary is positive and meaningful. I can't guarantee that you'll ever enjoy receiving a ticket, but I do hope that with this information that I've presented today, you'll better understand what options are available. At the beginning of this presentation, I mentioned nearly 25% of our state's population will receive a ticket this year. Don't end up in real handcuffs and behind bars. Take care of your business and close your case.